Hey guys, this is Noah. I just wanted to shoot a quick video for you. I want to start with Google Bard, which I know you're probably thinking to yourself, why would you talk about Google Bard? It's awful. And you're right, it has been awful, but it does have some interesting features now. If you go into Google Bard and you go into this little puzzle piece, you'll see that there are extensions that you can include, and you can check on Google Workspace. And so if you use Google Drive, and I know a lot of people do, it gives you a really interesting option. If you start with the @ symbol, it tells you the list of enabled extensions, and one of those is Google Drive, which means that you can ask it questions about your Google Drive. Tell me about, I don't know, the last open document. And I'm shooting in the dark here. I should probably spell too. We'll let that see what it does. And so as you can see there, it's actually looking inside of Google Workspace. It gives you that little thing there. Some notes for the seminar discussion. It tells you actually about the document itself inside my Google Docs. You can actually search intelligently. Now, one thing that's interesting that you might really find useful is this. Tell me about some important emails I should answer today. And so because it has access, I mean, it's Google, so if you're using Gmail, you're gonna have access to your emails through Bard, which means that not only you can ask it questions about your emails, but you can also ask it to reply for you. Now, mind you, it doesn't do it automatically yet, but as you can see, these are actual emails from my Gmail, like of the account that's logged in. So I can actually go into here and like click on these and open them, and I can ask it to write replies for me right here inside of Bard. And now you still have to copy paste, so it's not like the most efficient, but it's still way better than, paying a crazy amount for Copilot if you're using Outlook. But yeah, that's an interesting thing that you guys might not know. Another option here is Perplexity. So if you haven't used Perplexity before, I highly recommend it. It's an incredible tool. It's really been doing some amazing stuff as far as AI search engines go. And honestly, my default AI search engine is now Perplexity. It is no longer ChatGPT because, as you might have noticed, ChatGPT, and especially if using GPT-4, has the problem of being slow sometimes, and sometimes you ask it a question and it won't finish answering, or it'll have an error in the stream, or couldn't generate a response. That's mostly due to having a lack of server power, because most of the usage of ChatGPT comes from enterprise level companies who are using it programmatically. So anyhow, Perplexity, incredible. I wanted to show you a little bit of what Perplexity can do. So this is Jeff Sue. He's one of my favorite productivity YouTubers, and I wanted to ask it about a YouTube video. So I just pasted in the URL. Look at that. That's fast. So that's one of the things that's really amazing about Perplexity. And I'm going to type the same prompt into GPT. So you see here, this is something that's really cool about Perplexity, and something that people have been having a big problem with AI as a search engine, just not knowing where the sources come from now. GPT-4 does search the internet, so it will give you sources if you ask for it, but this gives you sources by default. And what you'll notice is that the sources are very relevant to the type of query. So if you ask it for technical knowledge, it actually looks for sourced options. They look at academic papers, they look at things that have been like peer reviewed, and you do have the option also to turn that on. Like you can tell it that you want to search, like narrow your search to being search only academic papers and things like that inside of Perplexity. Perplexity was developed specifically to be a search engine, and so it performs much better as a search engine. And as you can see, it does give you a nice summary, and then it gives you links that you can click on to see where it got its sources for its information. Google Bard actually does something relatively similar, but it's just not quite as pretty, is it? It can, because Google owns YouTube, so it definitely has the ability to scan the stuff, but it doesn't give you a list of resources the same way, and the user interface just isn't quite as, it's not as great. Just as you can see, it's kind of plain text, and maybe we're a little spoiled here, but this just doesn't look as great to me. This looks very appealing to me in terms of how I would use this, being able to just look at my sources very quickly. I can still continue a conversation if I want to. It says right there, ask a follow-up. And also, you can see it gives you other suggestions for questions to follow up on the topic, which is, I think, is also really cool. And as you can see, even in GPT-4, which does have the internet access, at the end of it, it says, however, I cannot view the content directly, so for specific details, watching the video should be necessary. And so there are some limitations to using ChatGPT as a search engine. Every single time you ask it a question that has to do with searching the internet, you'll actually see it do it, and it does take a little bit of time. I can say search the internet for the answers, and you'll see it right there. It says doing research with Bing, and then it says searching my entire workflow, supercharge your Mac, YouTube video summary. So it's actually looking online for a summary that's already been made. It'll go in there and then pull that summary in and then summarize the summary. So it's a little bit different of a process as to how it's working. There are some GPTs that are addressing this. If you go over here, you can see in the Explore GPTs tab, there are options for doing some things that are more specific, like getting information from YouTube videos. So it is an option inside of ChatGPT. The native functionality is not really built to be a search engine. So on that note, if you have been frustrated a little bit with GPT being slow, GPT not answering the questions quickly enough, or sometimes GPT4 will freeze, it'll stop. I have a ton of tips and tricks for that. You guys can definitely subscribe to the newsletter, all the juicy tips as I'm coming out with them. I'm still putting together kind of the content stream for that. In the meantime, definitely check out Perplexity as your default AI search engine, and Bard gives you the ability to talk to your Google account, essentially. So remember, go up here by the puzzle pieces, go into the extensions, enable Google Workspace, and probably turn off flights and hotels unless you wanted to accidentally try to book you a flight. I don't want that. So definitely check these things out. Bard is pretty cool now for an option if you're trying to talk to your emails or write responses to your emails or talk to the information that's inside your Google Drive. And those are just a few tips. I'm going to try to start making these a little more regularly. I come across a ton of stuff every day. It's just like, trying to find time to actually, I mean, you guys know the drill. You guys are business owners, you're entrepreneurs, you get it. No time, ton of stuff to do, but I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.